Okay, so the next slide is the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. So these are the standards that we are using. And they stand for, well, Web Content Accessibility Guidelines is WCAG or Wcag, so you'll hear me say that from now on. And they were created by the World Wide Web Consortium. You might have heard of them. I like to call them a group of nerds that create the rules of the internet. And they have graced us with some accessibility guidelines so that we have some kind of tool to measure our work and ensure that we are creating accessible digital products. So the current standard is WCAG 2.0, and that's been adopted pretty much internationally by most organizations. 2.1, WCAG 2.1 was released in 2018, and organizations have been transitioning to the version 2.1. It's important to note that version 2.2 will be coming out later this year, I believe, if not next year. And they're also working on version 3.0. What these standards do is, set a bunch of principles and guidelines for us. And they are testable statements. There are 3 levels of compliance: A, AA, and AAA. Level AA is what most organizations go with. Level A is the lowest level. Level AAA is the highest level. So level AA is sort of a healthy medium. Okay, so there are 4 principles that these guidelines revolve around to help us kind of understand the spirit of accessibility, and that is, they spell the acronym POUR, P-O-U-R. So think of this as you are pouring content into your website. Perceivable, operable, understandable, and robust. So I'm going to go through each of these right now. Okay, so principle 1, perceivable. Will people with disabilities be able to perceive what is on your website? So some quick examples of that is, if somebody is blind, they cannot see, how will they be able to perceive images on your website? And that is rectified by adding alternative text to include a description for your image. And your image could be inclusive digital logo, or it could be a picture of a person sitting at their desk, on a computer working, right? It could be a number of things. But unless you write a detailed description of what that image is, somebody such as myself with a screen reader will not get any meaningful information out of that image. Same for videos, for folks who are deaf or hard of hearing. If your videos have captions, that makes your videos perceivable to folks who are deaf or hard of hearing. Principle number 2 is operable. So will people with disabilities be able to operate your digital product? So if you have some interactive content, or if you have forms or applications to fill out, will people with disabilities be able to function and be able to get to, let's say if somebody cannot use a mouse, will they be able to use the keyboard to get to all of the fields to fill out and be able to just solely do the whole thing using a keyboard? So principle 3 is understandable. And it basically speaks to, will people with disabilities be able to understand what they're doing on your website? In the case of, let's say, filling out a job application, and I think we've all at this point filled out an online job application and have felt those frustrations, right? We want to make those kinds of experiences really smooth and clear, and just for people to understand what they need to be doing next, right? And understand the whole process. So that comes with instructions. It also comes with having a pagination. So if it's a multi-step process, let folks know they're in step 1 or step 2 of 5, right? Making sure that required fields have text alternatives. So a lot of times required fields are just marked in red. That doesn't work for somebody who's blind, right? So we need a text alternative such as a star in the label to note that it is required. and instructions to let folks know that star notes a required field, or any kind of instructions about how you're supposed to fill out those fields. So just making sure that it's clear and obvious for all users what they're supposed to be doing at each step of the process. Oh, and principle 4 is robust, and this speaks to compatibility with assistive technologies, various ones, different platforms, and browsers, right? So I should be able to have a similar experience if I'm using the screen reader on Windows, using Windows 10, and let's say Chrome. I should be having a similar experience if I'm using the Mac screen reader called VoiceOver on the Mac OS using, let's say, Safari, right? And this speaks to how your website is built under the hood. Are you using standard HTML5 elements? Are you using a lot of custom elements in JavaScript? The more customized your website is and the less use of standard HTML5 it is, the more work you will have to do to give names, roles, and values to the content that you're creating, whereas HTML has a lot of accessibility already built in it.